All right, I get super excited about a bunch of guests that we have that come on to the Malibu Guru podcast, but I'm pretty excited about this one because I have a returning guest. We've had him before. He's just been great, but this time we're going to talk about something a little bit different. I've got Steve Nunn from Canada here with me at the Malibu. It's greeting. Hey, thanks. I appreciate you coming. You came a long way.
It was a long day yesterday.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you own a Malibu, but you've got a good buddy of yours named Marcus Springman, who owns a Malibu as well. You're both Canadian, and came on and decided you were going to fly all the way down for the convention, which is in Austin, Texas, for the PMOPA convention in Austin, Texas. Came all the way down, and I appreciate you coming all this far.
Well, we've come down to the convention since we've owned the airplane. We've been to Florida, Nashville.
Y'all are a fixture.
Yeah, it's such great value, and of course it's great to. I think of the designers of the PA-46, and you do a long trip like that. I think that's what the airplane was designed for. It's happy. It's whether it's a piston like ours or a turbine. It's in its element.
Yeah, and if I to go back on the other podcasts that we did, just to brush everybody up on where we were and what you've done. You're a Malibu owner. What year model is your Malibu?
85.
Yeah, it's an 85. You happened upon this thing, basically. In other words, it was where you bought the airplane in a derelict state. And, I mean, I think it's okay to even say a derelict state.
Yeah, I mean, we honestly thought we were just buying the salvage aspect of it. It was that bad. There's going to be a great article written up in the PMOPA magazine.
Yeah, when this finally comes out, it's going to be.
But, yeah, it was...
and you've been basically nursing this airplane for a couple of years now, bringing this airplane back to not only just a nice airplane, but really this is going to be one of the nicest Malibus on the planet when the whole thing's all said and done. Yeah,
I think so. I mean, thanks for saying only a couple of years, but of course our shop's been busy, so it's been hard to get the time to work on it. It's going to fly this year. That's the good news.
That's the good news. Yeah.
Hopefully you're going to help fly that.
I am going to help you.
We've had every single piece off there by necessity, but that means it will be in great shape. So we've got a brand new interior, new engine, obviously new avionics.
Yeah.
Everything's gone through. So
it
should be a great one.
Let me get my Maxcraft pen out here as I'm making notes, because you are the president of Maxcraft Avionics.
Director of Business Development.
There you go. Director of Business Development of Maxcraft Avionics. Y'all are up in Vancouver, Canada. There are about 2 or 3 shops that I think are just the best shops that are out there. The ones that are just phenomenal. Your shop is one of them.
Thank you.
I'm going to throw out a shout out that there's RC Avionics out there. They're
also a great shop.
A great shop. It's just an absolutely fantastic shop. That they're just wonderful. Your shop is the same way, and you cater, and really y'all are different parts of the world, which is no problem at all. I mean, it's great, but if you're on the West Coast, this is the shop to go to. I mean, period.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, all our PA-46 fly fast, so it's a no-brainer if you're on the west side. Of course, we've got lots of people coming up from Texas flying up.
Yeah.
I think, if we're looking P-46 specific, there are other shops, but you just want to find a shop who really understands that airframe. And obviously, since we own one and we've done many of them before ours, and there's always a couple 46s in our shop. So it is one of our specialties.
It's one of your specialties, yeah. And y'all have done the airplanes I own. So I can't give a stronger endorsement than that. Yeah. So Maxcraft's been great. It's so nice for us to have a place that we know we can go. We've got people there that know exactly what they're talking about. And the final product that's shipped is always good. It's interesting to me because one of the problems that you have when you go pick up an avionics, a completed product at an avionics shop, there always is this little thing inside your gut of, did they get it all right? And am I about to go a long way to pick up something that's not going to be ready and it's going to be a disaster to my schedule? Now I will tell you, every airplane's not right, even at a high-quality shop, because avionics are so stinking complex that there's so many variables. There's so many, especially when you do a whole panel retrofit, where you literally rip out the entire panel and you put a brand new one in. Y'all have done King Airs, you've done PA-46s for me, you've done Cessna 182 for me. And when I go to pick up that airplane, it's not that everything is the perfect on the first flight. It is that there is a ready team. When you fly that flight and you come back and go, I want this a little bit better than that a little bit. I want the perfection of this was not there, and I want it to be tweaked. I mean, your guys are on it. There's never been a time where my schedule has been disrupted because I came to your shop and had to spend an inordinate amount of time to get it fixed. In other words, I'm there a day, or I block out a couple days.
Yeah, we always tell people a couple days to work out snags. We might get fortunate and there are no snags, but realistically, I mean, as you said, it's open heart surgery. We're taking a lot of stuff out, and often what's wrong post-flight check is not what we did. It's what we affected. It's older wiring that a wire broke while we were in there.
That's exactly right.
But it's a complex business, and a good experienced PA-46 shop is going to be able to help you figure out what you want in your airplane, the way you fly it. So that's a big part of it. Making sure that the integration is done well. That's something that's really dear to our heart. That we think the integration is really important.
Right.
And that's not always done perfectly. And we really work on that in the panel layout, the ergonomics of the panel layout. So there's all of that stuff. And then there's the complexity of getting it right at the end. So we do a lot of work around the world, but in the PA-46 around North America. And so it's really important that when the aircraft leaves, it's right. We don't want to see it back. So there's a lot of work that happens in the background to make sure that we've got good techs doing the installation so that we don't impact the other stuff that we're not touching, and that the stuff that we put in is done right. So there's a lot of checking during the process. A lot of work gets done ringing out the airplane before you arrive for the test flight.
Right.
And then, as you say, there's we're sending up another person with you who knows avionics even better, and ringing out. So the problem we've seen before is we would send the pilot off, and he would do the test flight, and he doesn't know the new avionics, so he's not testing all the features.
Right.
He gets home and 6 months later says, hey, this doesn't work.
Right.
And we say, well, did it not work when you picked it up, or did it stop working? Very different way of troubleshooting it.
Correct.
And so we realized that we really need to ring it out really thoroughly at our place.
With somebody that knows exactly what they're talking about, not only with the airplane, but with the avionics installation as well.
So we spend far more time than the average shop doing that post ring out, the test flight, ringing it out so that we don't have to see it come back. We've got a pretty good success rate of not bringing aircraft back up. But yeah, it's complex business. Anything can happen.
It sure can. It's y'all are very, very good, very easy to work with. And I just found y'all to be a really good shop. And every time I come on the long trip, it is a long trip. I mean, it's a long way up to Vancouver for anybody that's, central U.S. or East Coast. But you know what? These are long-distance airplanes. It's worth it. Right now, you've got a jet prop at your facility. You did an entire new panel, and we are going to pick that airplane up in like the next 3 days or something.
Yes,
so,
excited about it. And I think it's one of the nicest looking panels we've done. It's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm super excited about it. To me, one of the things that I just love to do is take an older airplane made in a different generation, but still very, very germane to what we're doing today. In other words, take an old King Air, take an old jet prop, take a whatever. The engine, the airframe are great. The avionics suck. I mean, they're just, and literally to rip the whole thing out and give this airplane a whole new life. You're literally taking, the most recent one that we had prior to this was Alexander Worm has a King Air B100. You're talking about a 1978 airplane with, $250,000 worth of stuff in the panel of this airplane. That airplane's going to fly another 50 years.
Yeah, and that was a great one because the avionics was really dated, and it was a pretty tired old girl. I mean, we found a lot of things wrong with that outside of the core avionics job we had to do.
Correct.
And there were some snags to work out even post-delivery, but I think Alexander's got a terrific airplane now.
Yeah.
And it's interesting in the aviation industry, and I learned this from our president, Darrell, there are airframes, either helicopters or fixed wing, that fall out of favor, the price drops, and then they find a new purpose. And if you buy smartly, and your team, I was just talking to them, about, buying like Meridian Avidyne equipped and taking that out and putting a new panel in, and you end up with a far better product at a less price.
Right.
So you can buy really smartly in the industry right now and do tremendous upgrades, primarily with avionics, but interior as well. So
Interior,
so
all kind of great
really,
things.
It's a fun time.
It's a fun time, and it's a fun time for these older airplanes because, I had a Meridian guy in here the other day. There's a guy that's thinking about buying a Meridian. It's like, do I spend, 1.4 or $5 million on an early Meridian with G1000? Or do I go buy a 2001 Meridian and rip out the entire panel, put in a brand new panel? Which one's better? At the end of the day, the one with the ripped out panel and brand new is better than arguably a brand new one. I mean, there's some advantages to going with avionics that are that are new, the newest, latest, and great. And I call it piecemeal, meaning where you have a 750 and a G500 TXI and a EIS and a GFC 600 autopilot, and you put all that together into this airplane that's not integrated into the airframe like a G1000. What a whiz-bang, absolutely incredible avionics package that you end up with. And it brings this airplane like a 2001 Meridian that came with Meggitt avionics, which are just terrible. I mean, they're just terrible. And then here's an airplane that has a whole new life.
You really can. I mean, it's a bit like going to a smorgasbord. You can, with the aftermarket products, you can pick, and we pick exactly what fits that customer. Does he want dual screens, two 750s, single, all those kind of things. And you can design it exactly what he wants. But the other interesting thing, and I was saying that to Matt this morning, is those customers are looking at a G1000 Meridian. Good product in its time, a bit long in the tooth now. But they should also be looking at what's the value of that airframe 10 years from now. Right. G1000 is going to be very old, and doing a panel upgrade now with the aftermarket product, that will still be current 10 years from now. So you not only can buy a Meggitt equipped aircraft, put in some avionics that far eclipses the G1000, but 10 years from now, you're going to have a much better investment.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is the aftermarket. So Garmin does a terrific job in reinvesting in their technology, adding things like Smart Glide. People who didn't have Smart Glide when that came out, that was free from Garmin. But also, if there's some new radio comes out, we can just pull that radio out and drop it in.
That's exactly right.
And when you're looking at the OEM products like the G1000, G3000, those are fixed, and those are controlled by the OEM piper in this case.
A good example of that is the M600, M700. If you look at one of the first first 20 serial numbers of an M600, you have a different generation of the G3000, not upgradable to some of the nicer things that are out there like auto throttle. You can't do it. You can't put the button, the auto land button in an early one because the generation of that G3000 is not there. You can buy the newest, latest, and greatest, but you can't upgrade that 2016 M600. You can't upgrade that to the newest stuff. That doesn't mean what it has is bad. What it means is what it is what it is.
Yeah, you're captured in time of that time slot.
That's right.
And so, since the G500, GTN 750 came out, now there's the new TXI and XI equivalent. So we're now starting to see some customers that we upgraded 10, 15 years ago are coming back and say, hey, replace that screen.
Right.
Drop a new TXI in. Well, it's not that big a deal to do that.
Right.
So 2 points. One is the stuff we're putting in now is going to have a long life. And when it does get to the end of that life, you can easily upgrade components of it.
Right.
So it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely wonderful. Let's talk. Let's shift gears for just a second. Let's talk about you are on the PMOPA board of directors.
Yes, thank you for twisting my arm.
Yeah, exactly. I did. I was one of the people that said this is a good move. Number one, I know you. I know your character. I know your commitment to this space. And I know that how important it is for PMOPA to have subject matter experts on the board. So let me talk about a board for just a second. Any board for any organization that exists outside. If you have a board, who do you want on the board? And the answer is you want people that are totally committed to that industry, to that market, to whatever it is. So on the PMOPA board of directors, you should have aircraft owners. In other words, people that actually own the airplane. They're committed to that. And that's what it is primarily. But there needs to be on any board people that are integral in certain niches. So I'll give you an example. I was on the PMOPA board for 6 years. And I will tell you that I was probably on there just a little bit too long. And what I mean by that is, at the time, PMOPA had a real serious need for the training. We needed to come up with some training initiatives. And during my tenure on the board, we came up with a Master Aviator program, which has been a wonderful program. There's going to be more people that are participating in this year that at the convention are going to get their wings than any year prior. That's
great.
It's a wonderful. And of course it's my little baby, but I'm very proud of that.
So you should be.
It wouldn't have happened if, and I say that, make it sound like I did all the work. I didn't. There was lots of people that did a lot of work to get this Master Aviator program going, but it needed somebody on the board to be able to speak the importance of this and be able to have a subject matter expert that when you have a board meeting, they can speak into this arena. Very, very important, in my opinion. In this case, avionics are so important to the future of our organization, meaning that aircraft are getting new panels, upgraded avionics. The PA-46 is a smorgasbord of avionics complexity, meaning that you could have S-Tech 55 autopilot, you can have the GFC 600, a bunch of KFC 150s that are still out there, and we haven't even talked about Avidyne, Meggitt, steam gauges, Garmin. I mean, it's just the hardest part about my job is, okay, what airplane am I flying today? I do know that avionics. Let me go. I'm a general practitioner in everything related to all the avionics, which is virtually every avionics that's ever existed, minus Honeywell, and somehow Proline's never gotten into our world. But other than that, I can pretty much, I've got a PhD in a whole bunch of different stuff because of that. And the avionics are so important to have you on the board. Number one, you're an aircraft owner, but number two, you're very much into the market of the avionics, and you bring that visibility into that board.
Yeah, I'm very passionate about the PA-46. I fell in love with it early on when I started looking at our derelict and called you and talked to you about it. And I think it's a terrific airframe. So I'm very passionate about it. But it's really fun being part of the board, and I'm hopeful that my avionics background will be a good contributor. I've written a few articles, but there's just so much more to do on the board than just avionics. And,
right.
And I think we're going such an exciting direction with the training.
Yeah.
Thanks to you getting it started, and the group of people, the meetings that you've had, and the standardization we're creating. It's really exciting, and you're right. There's great diversity on the board, which makes
a better board,
and it makes it stable because you've got all of these different directions that we're looking at. So at the end of the day, we're here to service all our members. And so we need to be firing on all cylinders and everybody contributing, saying, okay, look, we're a little weak on this. And so I think we'll see at the convention just a really well-oiled machine. Like the convention we've got a record number of people displaying, which is good because that adds more value to the members. So
Yep.
I worked really closely with Mike on that. He's done a terrific job. So I think we're going to see that, and it's a little bit of a cardboard empire with the convention. You want to bring the vendors in, of which you and I are both, and you want to bring the vendors in so there's value to the members, but the vendors aren't going to come in unless there's enough members coming.
Right.
It's a business case, right? So there's that fine balance. So I think we're getting good attendance here in Austin this week, and both by members and vendors, and so that makes a healthy organization moving forward for other conventions.
The key to a convention, in my opinion, is if you are involved, if you're not at the PMOPA convention, you're stating to the world, I don't care to be that big of a part of it. Meaning, this is the place where if you want to meet everybody that has anything to do with this community in a big way, they should be there. This is the place where everybody gets together. And if you want to find the best trainer, the best maintenance, the best avionics, the best in any area, this is where you go. And we're doing that. It's a wonderful place to meet all those.
I'm always surprised at the people who don't go, and I think the board, that's one of our goals, is to get more people to come to the convention, show them the value of it. But it actually comes back to the Master Aviator program. You're either committed to that quality of training, getting that 100 hours, getting recurrent training in there, or maybe you're not. And if you're on the fence, I think the convention will swing you over. It certainly did to me.
Yes.
And I felt actually, as a new, an experienced pilot, but new to the PA-46, I felt very comfortable in the standards that you helped create and the training that we had at the convention. So there's no question that regardless of whether I'm a board member or not, I'm coming to the convention because I want to learn more and I get good value as an aircraft owner out of it.
Right.
So it's
I'm very excited. When this podcast comes out, it'll be after the convention. That's okay. The convention this year, I think it's going to be one of the better ones we've ever had.
Great.
I know the attendance is really good. The weather should be, there's a few storms, but I think everybody's going to be able to get in. It's in a good place, and the vendor list there's more vendors than we've ever had. Mm. And I'm walking before that convention. I'm just really excited about that. It's going to be a good one. Talk to the people, because there's, PMOPA is a volunteer organization. Talk to the person that owns a PA-46 and is thinking to themselves, well, I could contribute. Maybe I should be a board member. Maybe I should volunteer. Maybe I should put my name in the hat. What is it like at a board meeting? Meaning, is it all just fun and games? Or are you boys getting down to work? And are y'all getting busy?
It's a great question. I've sat on numerous boards, and to be honest with you, I'm a little bit intimidated by this board because there's some really impressive people on it. And John Grimaya is running a great, well-run organization. So he's it's a get-her-done board. It's very professional.
Lots of work.
Yeah, lots of work. We dole out the responsibilities. So we had a convention committee that some of us sat on and had biweekly meetings. John sent us an email. So we have a board meeting on Sunday after the convention. John sent us an email and reminded us of our commitment, saying, make sure that you read all of the preparation material prior to the board meeting, you come prepared. And I just so respected that attitude because, hey, we're here to do a job and let's do it professionally. They're all professional business people and they have that right type of attitude. So it's enjoyable, but it's not just to sit around and kind of have a good chin wag. It's everybody on that board takes it pretty seriously.
Yeah.
And but to answer your question, if people are, so we're always looking the board is fluid. We have a length of term on there, and then people roll out of it, like you did. But there's also opportunities to get involved without being on the board, or to test the waters. So there are numerous committees that anybody can put their hand up and participate in, and it's a great way of getting a feel for whether you want to ultimately be on that board, and ultimately maybe you want to become the president.
That's right. Absolutely. I will tell you that there's some committees that are really doing a lot of good stuff. Chuck Olson is one of the guys. It's kind of over. I don't know the right word. I think it's the events committee or something. But he's basically planning trips that people go to. And I went to the Cayman Island trip this last year.
I was jealous.
It was lovely. But there's the big one that's coming up is going to be the Alaska trip. There's going to be an Alaska trip in 2025.
I heard that.
And they're going to announce at the convention. People are going to sign up real quick. But I'm telling you, Chuck's putting a lot of effort and energy into that. But there's other ones, too, that we're going out to Turks and Caicos. And there's cool places to go. And pretty much a guy like Chuck basically said, here's an area where I can jump in. I can be a part of things. And I got a lot of work that he's doing on his real job. But, he gets to chime in and be a part of something really cool. That's just an example of a place where somebody wants to get involved can. It doesn't have to be a board member, but it can be. The board is where things really come down to those are the people that are making the ultimate decisions. As far
Yeah,
as
I mean,
concerned.
they're not necessarily, they don't need to be all the doers. They're just help guiding the ship in the right direction, and we can use help from whomever.
Yeah.
And Joe, you're still very involved, even though you're not on the board.
I am. Yeah.
So that's exactly how a board should operate.
There's influence and there's power. Okay, for me, I think I went onto the board for a reason, because we had a training problem that we needed to get moving, and I got it moving. And now Kim Coryat's the safety committee chairman, and she's taken that ball and she's running. At this convention, we're coming out with basically a standardized training program that's really going to be, I think it's going to be excellent. I'm very excited about it coming out. I don't think it's going to be perfect. I think there's going to be iterations that come on from here, but I think it's going to have some guiding framework that I have been very much in part of. I've had no power whatsoever. I've not voted on a thing. I have no power in the sense of commanding somebody to do it. I have lots of influence, meaning I can influence. I can say, I think this is good, or I think, and here's a direction I think we could go, and people listen to that, and they're a part of it. It's been so much fun for me to come off the board, although I think my being on the board was very good, coming off the board, but still being influential and having influence. And I think there's a place there's a place to serve, I guess is the point. And for the health of the organization, having other people become onto the board, serving in committees, doing things, it's critical to the organization because it's a volunteer organization, and we need people that are really willing, ready, and waiting. And I will say, you mentioned his name, John Gramea. It's so hard to say the best, or I can't qualify all that. I will say John is a tremendous leader.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. That's how I would sum it up. He's
just a tremendous. The PMOPA is doing very, very, very good. Lots of safety initiatives, lots of fun initiatives, lots of things that bring community together. The health of the organization is as good as I've ever seen it, and I've been hanging around it for 20 years. A lot of that comes down to a guy named John Gramea, and just being a guy willing to throw his hat in the ring and saying, "Yeah, I'll be a part of it." So I know my participation with the latest initiative, which is going to be a standardized training initiative that's coming out. I'm going to let them roll it out. I'm not going to do it here. But a lot of that has to do with John calling me up and saying, "Hey, will you do this? Will you be a part?" And my answer is, "Oh, John, I'll do anything you need because it's John asking me." You know what I'm saying? And just this is a guy somebody said you work for Patton, you'd charge hell with a bucket of water for Patton. Or, I think that somebody said something about that with him. I know I've said that about some of my military leaders. But John's one of the guys, if John asks you to do it, I'm doing it because it's John. And I think he's just a wonderful leader.
Well, this initiative that's coming out, I mean, there could be a whole story podcast about that. I mean,
there will be. I promise you.
Good, because what's happened behind the scenes to make this happen, to get everybody in the same room, has been a huge challenge. And you're instrumental in that, but there are other people who worked, John and others, Kim, trying to get everybody into that room to create that standard. And there was a lot of pushback in many years in the past. And
right.
And so that's a long process to make that to come to fruition. We're there now. It's fantastic. I'm so excited to see it roll out, and I'm a big believer in it. I think it's as a relatively new P-46 pilot, I'm just eating all that stuff up. It's great. It's fantastic.
I will tell you, we're going to do a podcast on it. It was this attempt has happened and failed every time prior for 20 years, maybe 30 years. There's been an initiative to have a standardized training program within PMOPA, something that's good and effective, actually is going to have legs and is going to be able to get up on its own and walk and be a force. I think this one's going to do it.
I think so too.
And it's because there's good leadership, and it's because there's good people that that are not the same. The people on that committee that did this, where we fought tooth and nail, we argued, we challenged positions, it was not just it was not fun and games. It was hard work, but we all basically said, we're doing this, and we're going to see this to the very end. And the very end's not even there yet. But one of the biggest steps that's about to happen is going to be the convention rollout, where Mike Nichols, John Gramea, and some other very, I say, influential, probably the right way to say it, because no one can shove this down people's throats. But there's a lot of influence going on through some people that have a lot of influence, and they're using it toward this program. I'm excited. We're going to see what happens, but I think the convention, one of the telltale signs of this convention is going to be, number one, a lot of people, meaning big convention with a lot of people, a lot of vendors, a lot of stuff. I think the camaraderie is going to be really, really good.
Always.
I'm excited about that. But the other one is the standardized training program coming out. A lot of that has to do with people like you that are on the board, that are willing to step up, willing to challenge the way status quo, and willing to step up and be somebody. And so I appreciate that. I wanted to have you on the Malibu Guru podcast this time to talk about that leadership and what y'all have done.
It's kind of fun to be here at HQ. I think the last
for KC Aviation.
Yeah, exactly. The last podcast we did in the back seat of a rental car in Abbotsford. Well, we were getting a tire fixed. I think
we've gotten a little bit more
so
sophisticated.
Really
I don't know. We've gotten better, but we've gotten more sophisticated now. That's for sure. I will say this at KC Aviation HQ. I don't know if that's the right word, but it is this airport's a lot of fun to be at now. I love our facilities. I love the people that we've got going on. We got a good vibe going on here. It's just a lot of fun. When I come to work, matter of fact, I was sitting in my barber's chair this morning. Got a nice haircut.
You're looking good.
Looking good, yeah. Thank you. And anyway, but somehow it came up to, if I won the lottery. My barber said, if I win the lottery, I'm still coming to cut hair because I like cutting hair. And I told him, I'm the same way. If I won the lottery, if I had a net worth of $200 million or more, or something crazy, I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna go to the airport and I'm gonna do airport stuff, and it's gonna be right here in Lufkin, and it's fun to go to the airport and do stuff. And so every time I come to work, I think to myself, I won the lottery.
Yeah, well, it's fun to see your facilities and see them grow. It's great.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah. Steve Nunn with Maxcraft Avionics and the PMOPA Board of Directors. You're one of the good guys with lots of influence in our community, and I appreciate all that you do. Thanks a bunch for being a part of the Malibu Guru Podcast.
All right, cheers.
Yeah, PMOPA, it's full of a bunch of really cool people flying some really cool airplanes. And if you want to be a part of it, you kind of jump in with the way Steve's doing it, and because we need good people. It's a volunteer organization. You're not going to get any money. You're not going to get anything that's going to bring other than good times with good people and making a difference in people's lives. Because the safety initiatives and the things that PMOPA puts out, they're important and they're real. Joe Casey with KC Aviation and the Malibu Guru Podcast, signing off.